It's now the 7th day since the start of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. News 4 Tucson's Eric Fink spoke with one Ukrainian family living here in Tucson who's watching what's happening in the European nation with great anxiety.
This Tucsonan came to the United States in 1991, just before the collapse of the Soviet Union. He's been a U.S. citizen for 23 years. He has lots of family in Ukraine, mainly centered in the capital of Kyiv. And he tells me he's talking to them as many times as he can every day.
In Ukraine, we have one thing that everybody say, together we can win, only together.
Nikolai Banik watches with horror as his native country is fighting for its survival, and some of his closest family and friends are in the war zone.
None of them left. They feel like they are patriotic and they don't want to leave, even insist, because some of them has the really young kids, like 10, 12 years old. Some of them just barely born babies.
After a week of bombings and missiles, the UN says more than 1 million Ukrainians fled their homeland. Tucson City Councilman Steve Kozaczyk has family ties to Ukraine.
We need to step up to the plate, and we need to say these people stand for everything that our founding fathers and mothers stood for when they came to this country. And defending their rights to freedom, defending their rights for all of the things that we find in our own Bill of Rights is absolutely critical right now, or we don't stand for anything.
Nikolai is hopeful his family and friends will stay safe. He believes it's in God's hands.
As soon as we stop this, the life will be safer. But that little schmuck from the Kremlin, he will never stop.
Coming up tonight at 6 o'clock, you will hear from Nikolai's wife, Natalia, who has a 72-year-old mother in Kyiv. Downtown, I'm Eric Fink, News 4, Tucson.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has called for Russian President Vladimir Putin to meet him one-on-one, saying, quote, "Sit down with me to negotiate, just not at 30 meters. That was a reference to recent photos of Putin sitting at one end of an extremely long table when he met with French President Emmanuel Macron. Zelensky then added, "I don't bite. What are you afraid of? Any words are more important than shots." That as representatives from both Ukraine and Russia met in Belarus. According to the advisor to the Ukrainian president, a tentative agreement was reached to organize safe corridors for civilians to evacuate and for humanitarian supplies to be delivered in. Ceasefires will also be observed in areas where the safe corridors, we're told, are established.
Borodyanki, which is about 36 miles from Kyiv, faces devastation as Russian troops continue to advance towards Ukraine's capital. Fires are burning in the streets and military vehicles are destroyed. The Russian military has yet to overthrow the government in Kyiv, but thousands are reported to have died or been injured. Millions of Ukrainians have already fled in search of safety in neighboring countries. And a massive shelling campaign by Russian forces have left much of the city of Kharkiv also in ruin, according to the Ukrainian Ministry of Internal Affairs. Over the past 24 hours, bombs, shells, and rocket-propelled grenades have hammered residential and government buildings in the city, killing 34 people and injuring 285. Rescue crews worked to put out several dozen fires that broke out as a result of the attacks and to rescue any survivors they could find.